Diego Lainez was supposed to be Mexico's next superstar, part of the next wave after Chicharito, Guardado, and Vela were nearing the end of their careers. He had a really great touch, tons of talent, and the spotlight was on full force before he even turned 20. So how does a player with that much promise drift so far from the path everyone expected? Well, that's one of the topics I'll be talking about today. So, was it timing? Maybe. Was it the moves he made? Possibly. Or was he pushed into a role he wasn't ready for? I'll try to break all of this down in this video. Let's figure out exactly where things actually went wrong. Before Lainez turned 18, the hype around him wasn't naturally built. It was pushed way louder than it ever needed to be. He had real talent, yes, there's no question about that. Quick feet, clean dribbling, amazing ball control in tight spaces. But instead of letting him grow naturally, the Mexican media framed him as the next big thing. And I totally get why. And I think it was because someone needed to carry the torch. Most of Mexico's established stars were already on the decline or pretty much going downhill. Chicharito was on the decline in Europe. Guardado was transitioning into a deeper, let's say a more conservative role. Héctor Herrera had already reached his peak and was getting ready for a move that basically marked the end of his career. Tecatito was not consistent enough and was constantly battling injuries. So yeah, you couldn't really count on him. Even Chucky Lozano, the brightest attacker of that era, had moments where it felt like he was carrying too much of the load on his own. So when a 18-year-old with quick feet and a low center of gravity showed up at Club America, people latched onto him fast, like real fast. So Lainez became the projection of a future that people were desperate for. Every dribble he made felt symbolic. Every highlight reel became proof that Mexico's next superstar had been announced. But the expectations grew way faster than he ever did. He wasn't seen as this young winger still learning. He was pretty much seen as the next big star. After that, everyone judged him by standards no teenager could realistically reach. So Lainez's move to Real Betis looked exciting on paper, but in reality it was a bad move from the get-go. He arrived at the young age of 18, still raw, still physically underdeveloped, and went right into one of the most competitive midfields in Spain. Betis wasn't the place for development. They were chasing European spots, not slowing things down to teach a young winger the basics he still had to learn. And the players ahead of him weren't just competition, they were pretty big and important players. At the time, Betis had Giovanni Lo Celso playing the best football of his life. They had Canales running the midfield. They had Joaquin, 37 years old, but still producing, occupying the same wide channel Lainez needed to thrive. Not long after, Nabil Fekir arrived and made the hierarchy even tougher to get into. For a teenager without strength, without a defined role, without an end product, breaking into those rotations wasn't realistic. He didn't have the physicality to play as a winger in La Liga. He didn't have the tactical discipline to play as an interior. And Betis didn't have the time or the structure to develop him either. Instead of being somewhere where he can fail, learn, and play through mistakes, he ended up stuck between short substitutions and long spells on the bench. The worst environment for a player who desperately needs minutes to get into some sort of rhythm. Betis wasn't a bad club at all. I think pretty much it was the wrong step at the wrong moment. In my personal opinion, I think he should have started at a place or a team in Portugal, where players usually develop into stars. So once those early years slip away, it's usually harder for a winger to recover that confidence and the rhythm that they truly never had to build. So let me make this clear. Lainez's technical ability has never been the issue. The real problem was, the one that followed him from America to Betis to Braga, was on the physical side. He never built the strength needed to survive in Europe as a winger. In leagues like La Liga, fullbacks aren't just fast. They're strong, aggressive, and trained to win battles. Lainez had agility and close control, but he couldn't absorb the contact. Too many actions ended the moment a defender leaned into him. And the data backs it up. During his return to La Liga with Tigres, his dual won percentage sat at 45.9%, meaning he lost way more than he actually won. And in the air, it was pretty much clear. Just 16.7% of those aerial duels won. Those numbers aren't surprising for a small winger, but they highlight a bigger pattern. He couldn't consistently hold possession under pressure, even when he had the ball. The production didn't offset his physical limitations. His expected assists per 90 hovered around 0.10. Solid, but not high enough for a creative winger. That means he wasn't creating enough final ball dangers to force coaches to keep him on the pitch despite the physical shortcomings. And this wasn't just a Mexico thing. The same weaknesses showed up in Europe. Getting bumped off the ball, losing duels, and struggling to maintain balance against strong defenders. Wingers in Europe don't need to be big, but they need enough strength to keep the ball, buy time, and finish plays. Lainez never reached to that point, and without that, his technical skill couldn't translate into a consistent, high-level type of production. Beyond those physical issues, Lainez struggled with something more important: decision-making. He played purely on instinct. Fun to watch, obviously, but unpredictable in a system that is fully structured. At America, that freedom worked. In Europe, that didn't really fly. The patterns were repeated. He held the ball too long, dribbled into crowded areas, and drifted into spaces without a purpose. His shot selection was also super inconsistent, and he didn't create enough high-value chances to justify the risk of having him on the field. Coaches couldn't really define his role. He wasn't a pure winger, not a playmaker, and not a second striker. And then at that point, where does he even play? And when a young player doesn't fit a defined box, minutes usually disappear as a result. Lainez had so much talent, but the talents that turned talent into a reliable player never fully developed, I don't think. And that's what ultimately kept him from earning those minutes on the pitch. So Lainez right now is 25, and it's usually the age where wingers usually settle into what they're going to be. I mean, that's the pattern that I usually notice at this age. So the development window doesn't close entirely, but it stops about being potential and it becomes more about consistency. At this point, the ceiling looks different from what people imagined when he left America. He's still a super talented guy, don't get me wrong, sharp in tight spaces, and sometimes still shows flashes of why the hype was there initially. But the path isn't pointing toward a world-class winger, or even the level Chucky Lozano or Tecatito had reached in their primes. And that's the part people forget. Most Wonderkids don't become superstars, they become solid players. Lainez fits that pattern more than the hype that was built around him. He isn't a total failure. He's settled into a respectable level, but he's far away from those expectations that were placed on him in the beginning. I guess ever since he was 18 years old. So Lainez didn't end up becoming the superstar that people expected, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has nothing left to offer. The tools that made him exciting to watch at 18 are still there. I truly believe that they're still there. In Liga MX, that profile has real intrinsic value. He can fool a defense when the game gets slow, he can change the tempo off the bench, and he gives Mexico a different type of winger when they need unpredictability late in matches. He's not the face of the new era. He's not going to be able to carry the national team. I mean, not anytime soon, I don't think. But as a rotation player with a very specific skill set, he can still be useful, especially in a league where his strengths have room to breathe and his weaknesses don't get exposed as quickly. It's not the path that people had imagined for him, but it's a path that he can still contribute, still impact games, and still build a respectable career. This is how Diego Lainez failed to be the next Mexican superstar. Now, if you want to explore what modern football looks like in under 10 minutes, click the video up above or down below. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I appreciate you guys for watching. You guys are amazing. I'm going to continue making these videos just for you because I love you, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.